1967. A machine gets bolted to the wall outside a bank and it hands out cash without a human touching it. Everyone knows what happens next. The bank teller is finished. Except that is not what happened. As roughly 400,000 of those machines went in across the country, the number of bank tellers in America did not collapse. It grew. The machine took over the boring part, counting cash, and the teller's job became the human part, helping people with the messy, complicated things a machine could not. Same number of people, a completely different job. Hold on to that because it is the whole shape of today. There is a new machine on the wall now, and everyone is asking the same nervous question about project managers that they once asked about tellers. Will it replace you? And here is why this matters for your exam. Artificial intelligence just moved from something nobody tested to something the 2026 exam expects you to understand. So the question is not whether the machine is coming, it is here. The question the exam is actually asking is whether you know how to use it well, and where you still have to do the thinking yourself. Stay with me, because we map exactly that today.
May here, and I want to put this in a frame that makes the panic drain right out of it. Think about every tool a project manager has ever picked up. The Gantt chart was a tool. The spreadsheet was a tool. Scheduling software was a tool. Each one arrived, and someone swore it would either make the project manager useless or do the job by itself. None of them did. What each one actually did was take over a chunk of the mechanical work so the human could spend more of their time on the part only a human does. Artificial intelligence is the newest tool on that same bench. It is a very powerful one. It is still a tool, and picture where this bench begins. A room the size of a house, wall to wall with switches and cables. The first general-purpose computer ever built. It needed a whole team of people to run it, and those people were not erased by it. Their work changed. That is the pattern the whole history of this stuff keeps repeating. The tool does not walk in and take the chair. It changes what the person in the chair spends their day doing. On this exam, that distinction is the entire game. Augment is the word PMI wants living in your head, not replace.
Lewis here. I will admit my instinct pulls the other way, and I have earned the right to be a little skeptical. I have watched a lot of shiny things arrive promising to do the thinking for us. So let me ask the blunt version. If this tool can read the history and forecast the schedule and write the status report, what exactly is left for the project manager to do?
The part that was always the actual job, Lewis. Look at what the tool just did in your list. It read data. It spotted a pattern. It drafted words. Those are the mechanical parts. Now look at what it did not do. It did not decide whether that forecast is acceptable to a nervous sponsor. It did not choose which risk is worth a hard conversation and which one you let ride. It did not build the trust that makes a team tell you the truth in a stand-up. The machine augments your analysis. It hands you a sharper, faster first draft of the thinking. Then a human being weighs it against everything the data cannot see and makes the call and answers for it. That gap between a great analysis and the right decision is exactly where the project manager lives.
And that gives you the two ways to get the exam question wrong, which are mirror images of each other. The first trap is outsourcing your judgment. The tool spits out a confident answer, and you just forward it, no thought, no check, like it did the deciding for you. The second trap is the opposite, and it is just as wrong. You fold your arms and refuse to touch the tool at all, on principle, and you fall behind the project managers who learn to use it. On the exam, the safe-looking extreme in both directions is the wrong answer.
So before we go deeper, one genuinely useful thing. Over at certs.professorerica.com there are free practice questions and free flashcards, no sign-up, and there is a whole set on these newer testable topics, the ones people skip because they are not in the old study guides. Run them right after this while it is fresh. Reading about a trap and beating it under time pressure are two very different skills. Now sit with one before we bring in the desk. Your AI scheduling tool looks at your project history and tells you with total confidence that your project will finish 3 weeks late. Your instinct is to forward that straight to your sponsor as the new date. Is that the right move? Because it is about to be the wrong one, and the reason why is the whole point of this episode.
You do not forward it. Not yet. But hold that answer, because there is a right way and a wrong way to not forward it, and getting that difference clear is the rest of this. What I will grant already is this. The tool that reads 1,000 past projects in a second is doing something no human can. The mistake is not using it. The mistake is confusing what it gives you, a fast, powerful analysis, with the thing you are actually paid for, a decision you can stand behind.
So that is the frame for the whole episode. This is a new, testable trend, and PMI wants one reflex from you. AI augments the analysis, the human owns the decision. Next, we bring an expert to the desk and get specific about where this tool genuinely earns its place on the bench, because when you use it right, it is very good. Then we get honest about exactly where it fails you. Carry the bench with you. Newest tool, same rule, real quick, because this next part matters to you. If any of this is helping, tap that like button, then hit subscribe and ring the bell so the next one finds you. Both are free and take about a second, but they tell the algorithm to show this to one more person who needs it. To pressure test the AI calls today, we have Professor Duran at the desk. He is here to help us stress every answer and find where the clean-sounding move is actually the wrong one. Professor Duran, welcome.
Glad to be here, Professor Erica, and happy to push, because this is a topic where the confident, tidy answer is usually hiding something.
So scene 1 said the tool augments, it does not replace. That is the principle. Now let us be concrete and generous about it, because when you use this tool where it is strong, it is genuinely strong. May, give us the honest list. Where does AI actually earn its place in a project manager's week?
4 places, and they share a shape. The first is forecasting from history. Feed it your past projects and it will read patterns across hundreds of them faster than you could read one, and project where your current schedule or budget is trending. A human estimator uses gut and a handful of remembered projects. The tool uses all of them at once. The second is spotting risk patterns. You can sift your issue logs and status data and quietly flag, this cluster of signals looks like the early shape of a schedule slip before it is obvious to you. It is not predicting the future. It is noticing a pattern in the present that a busy human misses. The third is drafting the routine writing, the weekly status report, the summary of a 2-hour meeting, the first pass of a communications update. It gives you a solid draft in seconds that you then edit and own. And the fourth is optimizing options. Give it the constraints and it will generate schedule scenarios or resource leveling options for you to choose between. Notice the through line in all 4. Read, spot, draft, generate options. Every one of them ends with a human doing something the tool did not. Choosing, editing, deciding.
And I would put a number on why this matters for you specifically as someone sitting for this exam. PMI's own research found that only about 1 in 5 project managers say they have real hands-on experience with these tools. Roughly half say they have little or none. So this is not a crowded field of experts. Learning to use this well and knowing where it breaks is one of the freshest edges you can walk into that exam room with.
And there is a famous story that captures the whole relationship better than any definition, and it is old enough that I was around for it. 1997, a chess machine built by a big computer company sits down across from the greatest chess player alive, the reigning world champion, and beats him. Under real tournament rules. The headlines that week were basically, the humans lost, it is over.
It is over, the machine wins, everybody go home.
Except that is not how the story ends, and this is the part project managers should tattoo somewhere. That same champion, after he lost, did something brilliant. He asked, what happens if you stop making it human against machine, and instead put a human and a machine on the same side? And the answer was that a decent human working with a computer could beat the raw computer alone. The human brought judgment and intuition, and the strategy of what actually matters. The machine brought flawless calculation of 1,000 lines at once. Together they were stronger than either one by itself. That partnership has a name, and it is the exact model PMI wants in your head. You plus the tool beats the tool alone, and it beats you alone.
Before we get carried away with the romance of it, can we read the actual outline? I want to see PMI say this, not us.
Please. Because for a change, the document is refreshingly blunt about why this topic is even here.
Right there in black and white. Artificial intelligence, named as a trend they built into the exam, because real practitioners are actually doing it. So it is fair game, and it is not going away, fine. I am convinced it belongs on the test.
Then let me make the aggressive case, because I think the timid answer is the wrong one. These tools are good now, genuinely good. If the model reads your history and hands you a forecast and a risk register, you should trust it and move. Rechecking everything by hand throws away the entire point, which was speed. A project manager who second guesses a strong model is just someone who cannot let go of control.
Let me stop you there, Professor Duran. That is the tempting wrong answer. Here is the crack in it. You are half right, and the half you are right about is real. A project manager who refuses the tool is leaving speed and insight on the table, and that is a genuine failure. So the answer is not distrust. But the answer is not blind trust either, and the reason is what we spend the whole next scene on. The tool cannot see what is not in its data, and it cannot feel the politics in the room. So you use its forecast as a strong input. You check the assumptions it ran on. And you own the recommendation you carry to the sponsor. Speed on the routine parts, human judgment on the call that matters. You do not pick one, you keep both.
And that is not a project manager who cannot let go. That is the one who stays accountable. The champion did not beat the computer by out-calculating it. He beat it by staying in the loop and adding the thing it did not have. That is the job.
Quick gut check before we get honest about the failures. What share of project managers did the research say have real hands-on experience with these tools? Do not overthink it. Roughly.
About 1 in 5.
About 1 in 5. Which means most of the room does not yet know this tool or where it fails. So next scene is the honest half. Where AI does not replace you, and where trusting it blindly gets your name on a very expensive mistake. So we spent a whole scene being generous about what this tool does well because it deserved it. Now we get honest about where it fails because the exam lives right here in the failures. And the first thing to understand is that AI does not fail the way a calculator fails. A calculator that breaks gives you an error. This tool, when it fails, hands you a wrong answer that sounds completely, confidently correct. That is a much more dangerous kind of broken.
The word for the first failure is hallucination, and it is a real documented behavior, not a metaphor. These tools generate fluent, plausible text, and sometimes that text is simply made up, confident, well-written, and false. The famous cautionary tale is a pair of lawyers who asked one of these tools to help write a legal brief. It handed them case citations, with quotes, that looked perfect. They filed it. The problem was that the cases did not exist. The tool had invented them, wholesale, in the same smooth voice it uses for true things. A judge sanctioned the lawyers, and the tool's name was all over the news.
And notice who got sanctioned. Not the tool, the humans who filed it. That is exactly the lesson, and it is the one I would carry into the exam. The tool does not get held accountable, you do. Which is why on any question where AI produces something that goes to a stakeholder, a forecast, a report, a risk list, the correct move always includes a human verifying it before it is relied on. Not because the tool is usually wrong. Because when it is wrong in a voice that sounds exactly like right, and your name is on it.
The second failure is bias, and this one is sneakier because it hides inside the data. A tool like this learns from the examples it is fed, so it inherits whatever is in them, including the mistakes. A big company built an AI tool to screen job applicants, trained on 10 years of its own past hiring. But its past hiring had mostly favored men, so the tool taught itself that pattern and started penalizing resumes that even mentioned a women's college or a women's team. Nobody programmed it to be biased. It learned the bias from the history it was given, and then it repeated it at scale, faster and more consistently than any human could. The company scrapped it. And notice the lesson for a project manager. The bias did not come from the tool being evil. It came from the data. So if your project forecast leans on 3 years of records that were rosy and optimistic, the tool will hand you a rosy, optimistic forecast in a confident voice and call it analysis. The failure lives in the inputs, which means the fix lives there too.
Which is why I keep saying I have watched this movie before. Every few years a technology shows up promising to do our thinking, and it overpromises. It hallucinates, it is biased. Honestly, the safe, professional answer is to keep this thing away from real project decisions and do the job the way it has always been done.
Push back on that, Lewis. Half right, and the wrong half is dangerous. The skepticism about hype, keep that, it is healthy. And the failures are real, we just named 2 documented ones. But refusing the tool completely is its own wrong answer, and the exam will not reward it. Because your own favorite argument cuts the other way. The ATM did not erase the teller, it changed the job. The spreadsheet did not erase the accountant, there are more accountants now than ever. The tool that augments almost always beats the person who boycotts it. So the move is not hype, and it is not a boycott. It is to use this where it genuinely helps, with your eyes wide open to exactly how it fails, checking its work and owning the result.
Fair. Reject the hype and the boycott. Keep the tool and the judgment. I can live with that.
And there is a third failure that is not a bug, it is just a boundary. There are parts of this job the tool structurally cannot do, no matter how good it gets. It cannot be accountable, someone with a name and a job has to answer for the decision. It cannot hold the ethical line, decide that the technically optimal plan is the wrong thing to do to people. And it cannot build trust. When your sponsor is scared and your team is tired, what steadies the room is a human they believe in, not a generated paragraph. Those are not gaps that a better model closes next year. They are the human core of the job.
And that supercomputer is the reminder underneath all of it. There is no magic in there. It is machines running on data that a human chose to collect, clean, and feed in. Garbage in, garbage out, at enormous speed. Which is why the data quality is your job, not the tool's. And on our decision filter, this whole reflex has a home. Step 2. Assess before you act. When a scenario shows AI handing you a confident answer and a tempting option to just act on it, the exam almost always wants you to assess first. Check the inputs, verify the output, understand where it came from before you move. The tool sharpens your assessment. It does not get to skip it for you. And when you do act, step 7, you own it. So how do you actually build that checking into how you work, instead of just promising to be careful? That is the last piece. So we know where AI helps and where it fails. Professor Duran is back, because this last piece is the one that separates a project manager who uses AI well from one who just uses it. It is about building the checking in on purpose. And 2 exam drills to close. Professor Duran.
Happy to. And I will concede up front, since I played the trust it and move card last scene. This is where you keep me honest. The point is not to be slow, it is to be responsible at speed.
So start with the phrase that holds the whole thing together. Human in the loop. It means the tool never gets the final word on anything that matters. It drafts, it suggests, it forecasts. Then a human checks it and decides. Picture the workflow as a simple line. The AI produces a first pass. You check the inputs it used. Is the data current? Is it complete? Is it relevant? You apply your judgment, the context the tool cannot see, and then you own the decision, with your name on it. The loop is not bureaucracy. It is the difference between a project manager and a forwarding address.
And notice the first thing in that loop is the inputs, not the output. That is the part people skip.
which is really the data quality point, and it is the least glamorous and most important thing on this whole desk. The tool is downstream of your data. If your historical records are a mess, the forecast is a confident mess. If your data carries an old bias, the tool repeats it at scale. So keeping your project data clean, current, and honest is not administrative busywork anymore. It is the thing that decides whether the tool helps you or quietly betrays you. That responsibility was always yours. Now it has teeth.
And there is a second responsibility that is easy to skip, which is transparency. If AI drafted the analysis behind a recommendation, you do not hide that. And you do not oversell it either. You are honest about what the tool did and what you checked. Because the moment a stakeholder discovers that the confident report you handed them was generated and never verified, you do not just lose that report. You lose your credibility on the next 10. Honesty about the tool is part of using it well.
And here is the price of getting this wrong, because it is rarely dramatic in the moment. A project manager asks the tool for a plan, and it looks free. But it was built on stale data, so the estimate was wrong, and nobody checked it, and it shipped to the sponsor. That forced $80,000 of rework. Meanwhile, a real risk the tool's data never covered went unflagged and landed late for another $110,000. And rebuilding the sponsor's trust after the miss cost $60,000 more. The tool was free. Not checking it cost $250,000.
And every dollar of that was avoidable with one human check.
One check at the right moment, and that is the whole business case for human in the loop in a single receipt. All right, let us drill it exam style. First scenario. Your AI scheduling tool analyzes your project and predicts confidently that you will finish 3 weeks late. Your sponsor is going to ask why. What is your best next action?
You treat the forecast as a strong input, not the answer, and you assess it before you act. Look at what the tool ran on. Is the historical data it used actually comparable to this project? What assumptions is the 3 weeks built on? Then you bring your own judgment, the context it could not see, a mitigation already in motion, a dependency that just cleared, and you carry a recommendation you can defend to the sponsor, informed by the tool, owned by you. What you do not do is forward the machine's number as gospel, and you do not bury it because you do not like it. Assess, then act. That is step 2.
Harder one. A project manager uses AI to generate the entire risk register for a project and submits it as is, no edits. Turns out it listed several risks that do not apply to this project at all, and completely missed the single biggest real risk. What failed, and what is the lesson?
Human in the loop failed, and accountability got outsourced, which is the deeper error. The tool did exactly what it does. It generated a plausible generic register from patterns, including risks that sound right but do not fit, and it could not know the one real threat because that threat lived in context the tool never had: the politics, the site, the people. The fix is not to abandon the tool, it is to use its draft as a starting point and then do the human work, apply real project knowledge, cut what does not fit, and add what only a person on the ground would know. And notice the trap answer: blame the AI. You cannot, you submitted it. The register is yours. The tool drafts, you own it.
Professor Duran, that is the clearest anyone has drawn the line between using the tool and hiding behind it. Before you go, leave us the single line to walk out the door with.
Glad to help. Hold this and you will never miss one of these. AI augments your analysis, but it never owns your decision, so on every AI question your move is the same. Use it where it is strong, verify what it gives you, and own the call yourself. Augment, verify, own.
And that is the 2026 layer done, or at least its sharpest new corner. AI is a tool, the newest one on a long bench, and every panic about it has a twin in history that ended the same way. The job did not disappear. It changed toward the human part. Study this one because most of the room has not, and that is exactly where the fresh points are hiding.
Hold today's 2 ideas. On the exam, AI augments your analysis, it does not replace your judgment. And your first move on any AI question is to use it where it is strong, verify what it produces, and own the decision yourself. Augment, verify, own. The tool does the counting. You still do the deciding.
And nobody is born trusting themselves over a confident machine, honestly. The reflex to just forward the smart-sounding answer is strong. Retraining that into check it, then own it, is the whole skill. And it is the one that keeps your name off the expensive mistakes.
If this finally made AI feel like a tool you can actually use on the exam instead of a threat you have to fear, subscribe, it genuinely helps us keep making these. And the free practice questions and flashcards are waiting at certs.professorerica.com with a set on exactly these newer, high-value topics. Before you close the tab, one honest question. Think about your own project work. What is the one task you would actually hand to an AI tool first, and the one decision you would never let it make for you? Tell us in the comments. Augment your analysis, verify what it gives you, and own the decision, and the tool makes you sharper instead of making you a forwarding address. Catch you in the next one.